Jake Morrison woke up at 5 in the morning, just like he had every day for the past 37 years. The sun was not up yet, but Jake was already moving around his small kitchen. He made coffee and looked out the window at his cornfields. The plants were growing well this year. The weather had been good, and Jake felt happy about his crops. After breakfast, Jake put on his work boots and walked outside. The air was cool and fresh. He could hear birds singing in the trees near his house. Jake loved mornings like this. His farm was in Nebraska, far from any big cities. The nearest town was 20 miles away, and Jake liked it that way. He had always been a quiet man who enjoyed working with his hands and taking care of his land. Jake climbed into his old pickup truck and drove toward the south field. He wanted to check on the corn there. As he drove down the dirt road, he noticed something strange. There were black marks on the ground near the edge of his field. They looked like something had burned the earth. Jake stopped his truck and got out to look closer. The marks were bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. They were not from a car or a truck. They were too large and too deep. Jake followed the marks with his eyes. They led into his cornfield, making a path through the tall plants. Something very heavy had landed here, and then moved into his field. Jake felt worried, but also curious. He had lived on this farm his whole life, and nothing like this had ever happened before. He walked slowly along the path, pushing aside the broken corn plants. The morning sun was getting brighter now, and Jake could see better. After walking for about 200 yards, Jake stopped. He could not believe what he was seeing. There, lying in the middle of his cornfield, was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was huge, about the size of a school bus. It had dark black scales that looked like metal in the sunlight. The creature had wings, but one wing was bent and looked broken. It had 4 legs with sharp claws and a long tail that curled around its body. Jake knew he was looking at a dragon. He had seen pictures of dragons in books and movies, but this was real. The dragon was breathing, but it looked hurt. There were deep cuts on its sides, and blood was coming from the wounds. The dragon's eyes were closed, and it was making soft sounds of pain. Most people would have run away or called the police, but Jake was not most people. He had spent his life taking care of animals on his farm. He had helped sick cows, injured horses, and wild animals that had been hurt. When Jake saw any creature in pain, his first thought was always to help. Jake went back to his truck and got his veterinary kit. He had learned to take care of animals from his father, who had learned from his father before him. Jake had medicines, bandages, and tools that he used to help sick animals. He also went to his barn and got some bigger supplies that he used for treating horses and cows. When Jake came back to the dragon, the creature's eyes were open. They were golden yellow, like the color of honey. The dragon looked at Jake with intelligence. Jake could tell that this creature was not just an animal. It was smart, maybe as smart as a person. Jake spoke softly to the dragon. "Easy there, big guy. I am here to help you. I know you are hurt, but I will not harm you." Jake moved slowly, keeping his hands where the dragon could see them. The dragon watched him, but did not try to attack. Jake had treated many large animals before. He knew that hurt animals could be dangerous, but he also knew how to stay calm and move carefully. The dragon seemed to understand that Jake wanted to help. It relaxed a little and let Jake come closer. Jake started by cleaning the wounds on the dragon's sides. He used clean water and antiseptic to wash away the blood and dirt. The dragon made soft sounds, but it did not try to stop Jake. The cuts were deep, but they were not life-threatening. Jake used large bandages to cover the wounds after he had cleaned them. The broken wing was more difficult. Jake had never treated a wing before, but he understood bones and muscles. He could see that the wing was not broken completely, but it was badly hurt. Jake made a splint using wood and cloth. He wrapped the wing carefully so it could heal properly. While Jake worked, the dragon watched him. Sometimes the dragon would make a low rumbling sound, almost like a cat purring. Jake thought the dragon was trying to say thank you. When Jake finished treating the wounds, he brought water in a large container. The dragon drank the water gratefully. Jake also brought food. He was not sure what dragons ate, but he brought a side of beef from his freezer. The dragon ate the meat quickly, as if it had not eaten for a long time. The dragon stayed in Jake's field for the rest of the day. Jake came back several times to check on it. Each time, the dragon seemed a little stronger. By evening, the dragon was sitting up and looking around. It seemed to be getting better. That night, Jake went to bed wondering about the dragon. Where had it come from? Why was it hurt? Were there other dragons somewhere? Jake had many questions, but he was mostly happy that he had been able to help the creature. When Jake woke up the next morning and went to check on the dragon, it was gone. The only signs that it had ever been, there were the large impressions in the soil where it had rested and the empty water container. Jake might have thought he had dreamed the whole thing, but the evidence was clear. Jake spent the morning thinking about what had happened. He did not tell anyone about the dragon. He lived alone and did not have many visitors. Jake decided to keep the secret to himself. He had no idea that military satellites had been watching from space, or that his quiet life was about to change forever. As Jake worked in his fields that day, he hoped he had done the right thing. He hoped the dragon was safe and that its wounds would heal properly. Jake had always believed that helping others was the right thing to do, whether they were people or animals. He had no way of knowing that his simple act of kindness would soon change the course of human history. Jake was eating breakfast when he heard the sound of engines coming up his driveway. He looked out his kitchen window and saw military vehicles driving toward his house. There were 3 green trucks and 1 black car. Soldiers in uniforms were sitting in the trucks, and they all looked very serious. Jake had never seen military people on his farm before. He felt nervous and confused. He had not done anything wrong, and he could not understand why soldiers would come to his quiet farm. Jake put down his coffee cup and walked outside to meet them. The vehicles stopped in front of his house. Soldiers got out of the trucks and stood in a line. They were all carrying weapons and wearing heavy vests. A woman in a military uniform got out of the black car. She had short brown hair and looked like she was in charge of the other soldiers. The woman walked up to Jake and held out her hand. "Mr. Morrison, I am Colonel Patricia Hayes from the United States Air Force. We need to talk to you about something very important." Jake shook her hand. Her grip was firm and strong. "What do you want to talk about, Colonel?" "I have not done anything wrong." "We are not here because you did something wrong," Colonel Hayes said. "We are here because something very unusual happened on your property yesterday. We need to know what you saw and what you did." Behind Colonel Hayes, other soldiers were walking. Around Jake's property, they had machines and cameras. Some soldiers were taking pictures of the ground near his cornfield. Others were using devices that made beeping sounds. A young man in uniform came up to Colonel Hayes. "Ma'am, I am Captain Ryan Fletcher. We are finding exactly what our satellites showed us. There are burn marks in the field, and the soil has been changed somehow." Jake felt more confused. "Satellites? What are you talking about?" Colonel Hayes looked at Jake seriously. "Mr. Morrison, our satellites watch the sky for threats to our country. Yesterday, they recorded something large flying over your farm. The object landed in your field and stayed there for many hours. Then it flew away. During the night, Jake's heart started beating faster. The military knew about the dragon. They had been watching from space, while Jake was helping the injured creature. Jake was not sure what to say. A young woman soldier ran up to them. "Colonel Hayes, you need to see this right away. Lieutenant Amy Carter found something in the field that you will want to look at." They all walked to the spot where the dragon had been resting. Lieutenant Carter was taking pictures of the ground with a special camera. She pointed to a place where the soil was disturbed. "Look at these marks," she said. "They are not random. They look like symbols or writing. Whatever was here made these marks on purpose." Jake looked at the marks in the dirt. They were lines and curves that looked like letters, but not in any language Jake knew. He remembered seeing the dragon's claws touch the ground, but he had not noticed that it was making symbols. Captain Fletcher was holding a machine that made different beeping sounds. "Colonel, this device measures radiation and other energy. The readings here are unlike anything I have ever seen. The soil itself has been changed. There are materials here that do not exist on Earth." Colonel Hayes turned to Jake. "Mr. Morrison, I need you to tell me exactly what happened here. Do not leave out any details. What you saw and did might be the most important thing that has ever happened to our country." Jake looked around at all the soldiers and their equipment. He had always been a simple man who liked to keep to himself. Now he was surrounded by military, people who seemed to think he was involved in something dangerous. "I just helped an injured animal," Jake said quietly. "I found it hurt in my field, so I took care of its wounds." "That is all I did." Colonel Hayes raised her eyebrows. "An animal? Mr. Morrison, our analysis shows that what landed here was not any animal known to science. It was something completely new. Something that might not even be from Earth." Jake felt his face getting hot. "I do not know where it came from. I just know it was hurt and needed help. I have been taking care of injured animals my whole life. It did not matter to me what kind of animal it was." Captain Fletcher looked at his machine again. "Colonel, the energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever was here left behind traces of technology that we do not understand. The creature might have been wearing some kind of advanced equipment." More soldiers arrived in additional vehicles. They brought bigger machines and started setting up equipment all around Jake's property. Jake watched them work and felt like his quiet life was disappearing. "Mr. Morrison," Colonel Hayes said, "I need to ask you some specific questions. Did the creature communicate with you in any way? Did it make sounds or gestures?" Jake thought about the dragon's golden eyes and the way it had looked at him with intelligence. He remembered the soft rumbling sounds it had made, like it was trying to say thank you. "It made some sounds," Jake said, "but I do not think it was trying to talk to me. It was just an injured animal." Lieutenant Carter called out from the field. "Colonel, we found something else. There are traces of what looks like medical treatment. Someone used bandages and antiseptic here. The treatment was very professional." Colonel Hayes looked at Jake with new interest. "You treated its wounds? What exactly did you do?" Jake felt more nervous, but he decided to tell the truth. "I cleaned the cuts and bandaged them. I also made a splint for its wing because it looked broken. I brought water and food too." "What kind of food?" Captain Fletcher asked. "Beef from my freezer. I was not sure what it ate, but it seemed hungry." The soldiers looked at each other with surprise. Colonel Hayes spoke quietly with Captain Fletcher for a few minutes. Then she turned back to Jake. "Mr. Morrison, do you understand what you might have done? If this creature was from another world, you made the first contact between humans and an alien species. The way you treated it might determine how these beings view all of humanity." Jake felt dizzy. "Alien species? You think it was from space?" "We think it is very possible," Colonel Hayes said. "The energy readings, the unknown materials, the intelligence you described, all of these things suggest We are dealing with something. Not from Earth. More vehicles arrived. Scientists got out carrying boxes of equipment. They wore white coats and started taking samples of soil and plants from the field. Jake watched them work and felt like his farm was being invaded. What happens now? Jake asked. Colonel Hayes looked at him seriously. Now we wait and we prepare. If this creature was really from another world, it might come back. It might bring others. We need to be ready for anything. Jake thought about the dragon's intelligent eyes and the way it had trusted him to help with its wounds. He had felt a connection with the creature, like it understood that Jake wanted to help. What if it comes back? Jake asked. What will you do? We will try to communicate with it, Colonel Hayes said. We will try to learn about its intentions. But we will also be prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. Jake felt worried. The dragon had not seemed dangerous to him. It had been hurt and scared, and Jake had helped it. He hoped that if the dragon came back, the military would not try to hurt it. Colonel, the creature was not aggressive, Jake said. It was just hurt and needed help. I do not think it wants to harm anyone. Colonel Hayes nodded. I hope you are right, Mr. Morrison, but we cannot take any chances. If beings from another world are visiting Earth, we need to be prepared for any possibility. As the day continued, more people arrived at Jake's farm. Military officers, scientists, and government officials all came to see where the dragon had landed. Jake answered the same questions over and over again. He was getting tired of all the attention. That evening, Jake sat on his porch and looked at all the equipment and people on his property. His quiet farm had become a busy place full of strangers. He wondered if his life would ever be the same again. Jake also wondered about the dragon. Was it really from another world? Were there others like it? Would it come back to his farm? Jake had many questions, but no answers. All he knew was that he had helped an injured creature, and now everything was changing. 3 days had passed since the military arrived at Jake's farm. The soldiers had turned his quiet property into a busy camp. They put up tents and brought in big trucks full of equipment. Scientists worked all day taking samples and running tests. Jake felt like a stranger on his own land. The soldiers had been polite to Jake, but they watched him constantly. They asked him questions about every detail of his encounter with the dragon. Jake told them the same story many times, but they kept asking for more information. Colonel Hayes had set up her command center in Jake's barn. She had computers and RDIO equipment everywhere. Jake could hear soldiers talking on radios throughout the day and night. They were all waiting for something to happen, but Jake was not sure what. On the third morning, Jake was sitting on his porch drinking coffee. When Colonel Hayes came to talk to him, she looked tired and stressed. Mr. Morrison, we have been monitoring the skies constantly since we arrived. Our satellites and radar systems are watching for any signs of the creature returning. So far, we have seen nothing. Jake nodded. Maybe it will not come back. Maybe it was just passing through. Maybe, Colonel Hayes said, but our scientists think differently. They believe the creature left those symbols in your field as a message. They think it might be planning to return. Jake looked toward the field where the dragon had rested. The scientists had covered the area with plastic sheets to protect the symbols. They had been trying to decode the markings for 3 days, but they had not made any progress. What do you think the message says? Jake asked. Colonel Hayes sat down next to him. We have no idea. We have shown the symbols to language experts from around the world. No one has ever seen anything like them. It is completely unlike any human writing system. Jake felt frustrated. Why are you all so worried? The creature was hurt, and I helped it. It was not aggressive or dangerous. It just needed medical treatment. Mr. Morrison, you have to understand our position. If beings from another world are visiting Earth, we need to know their intentions. Are they peaceful? Are they studying? You? Are they planning something we should be worried about? Before Jake could answer, alarms started making loud noises throughout the camp. Soldiers ran to their positions and grabbed their weapons. Colonel Hayes jumped up and spoke into her radio. "This is Colonel Hayes. What is the situation?" A voice came through the radio. "Colonel, we have multiple contacts approaching from the eye. Northwest. They are large and moving fast. Estimated arrival time is 3 minutes." Jake stood up and looked toward the sky. He could see 3 dark shapes flying toward his farm. Even from a distance, Jake could tell they were dragons. The one in front was the dragon he had helped. Jake recognized the way it flew, even though its wing was now healed. "Those are dragons," Jake said to Colonel Hayes. "The first one is the dragon I helped." "I am sure of it." Colonel Hayes spoke into her radio again. "All units, hold your positions. Do not fire unless I give the order. Repeat. Do not fire unless ordered." The dragons circled Jake's farm once, then landed in the same field where Jake had first found the injured dragon. Soldiers surrounded the area, but they kept their distance. Everyone was nervous and ready for anything. The dragon that Jake had helped walk slowly toward the group of soldiers and scientists. The other 2 dragons stayed back, but they watched everything carefully. Jake could see that all 3 dragons were huge and powerful, but they moved gracefully and did not seem aggressive. "Mr. Morrison," Colonel Hayes said, "I think your dragon wants to see you. Will you come with me to meet it?" Jake felt excited and nervous at the same time. He had hoped the dragon would return, but he had not expected it to bring friends. Jake and Colonel Hayes walked toward the dragon, followed by several soldiers and scientists. When they got closer, Jake could see that the dragon's wounds had healed completely. The bandages were gone, and the scales where Jake had treated the cuts were now bright white instead of black. The dragon's wing looked strong and healthy. The dragon looked directly at Jake with its golden eyes. Then something amazing happened. Jake heard a voice in his head. It was not his own voice, and it was not speaking English, but somehow Jake understood every word. "Human friend Jake," the voice said, "I am Korathex of the Starwing clan. I have returned to offer thanks and to speak with your leaders." Jake was so surprised that he almost fell down. The dragon was talking to him, but not with its mouth. The words were appearing in Jake's mind. Jake looked at Colonel Hayes and the other people around him. They all looked confused and did not seem to hear anything. "Did you hear that?" Jake asked Colonel Hayes. "Hear what?" she replied. "The dragon has not made any sounds." Jake realized that only he could hear the dragon's voice. "The dragon is talking to me. It can put words into my mind. It says its name is Korathex, and it wants to thank me for helping it." Colonel Hayes looked amazed. "It can communicate telepathically? Ask it where it comes from and what it wants." Jake looked at the dragon and tried to think his questions clearly. He was not sure if the dragon could hear his thoughts the way he could hear its voice. Korathex seemed to understand Jake's thoughts. "Yes, human Jake, I can hear your mind as you hear mine. I will answer your questions and those of your leaders." Through the mental connection, Korathex began to share information with Jake. Images and ideas flowed into Jake's mind. He saw dragons flying through space between stars. He saw worlds with different skies and strange plants. He saw cities built by dragons and other creatures that Jake had never imagined. "The dragon is showing me things," Jake told Colonel Hayes. "It is showing me other worlds and other creatures. I think dragons can travel between stars." Dr. Martinez, the scientist who had been studying the symbols, came closer. "Ask it about the markings it left in the field. What do they mean?" Jake concentrated on the question. Korathex responded by showing him more images. Jake saw dragons watching Earth from space. He saw them studying humans and learning about human civilization. The dragon says they have been watching us for a long time, Jake told the group. The symbols are a record of their observations. They have been studying humans to decide whether we are ready to meet them. Colonel Hayes looked concerned. Ready for what? What do they want from us? Korathex shared more complex ideas with Jake. These thoughts were harder to understand, but Jake tried to translate them for the others. The dragon says humans are not alone in the universe. There are many different kinds of intelligent creatures living on different worlds. They have formed a community that works together and shares knowledge. Dr. Martinez was writing down everything Jake said. A galactic community? Are they inviting us to join? Jake felt Korathex's thoughts becoming more serious. The dragon says that humans are reaching a point where we will soon be able to travel to other worlds. When that happens, the other creatures will not be able to hide from us anymore. They have to decide whether to welcome us or to prevent us from leaving Earth. Colonel Hayes felt worried. Prevent us? What does that mean? The dragon says some creatures think humans are too dangerous to be allowed to spread to other worlds. They think we fight too much and destroy too much. But others think we might be able to learn and change. Jake paused as Korathex shared a new thought. The dragon says that how I treated it when it was hurt is important. It shows that humans can choose to help instead of harm. That choice might determine what happens to all of humanity. The two dragons that had stayed back now moved closer. They were carrying something in their claws. It looked like a crystal that glowed with internal light. What is that? Colonel Hayes asked. Jake listened to Korathex's explanation. It is a communication device. The dragon says it will allow us to speak directly with the leaders of the galactic community. We will have a chance to speak for ourselves and show that humans deserve to be welcomed rather than contained. Dr. Martinez looked excited. This is the most important moment in human history. First contact with intelligent alien life, and they are offering us a chance to join their community. Jake felt the weight of responsibility. The dragon says this opportunity exists because of what happened between us. When I chose to help instead of fear, it proved that humans have the capacity for good. Korathex made the rumbling sound that Jake remembered from their first meeting. Through their mental connection, Jake understood that this was how dragons showed happiness and approval. The dragon is pleased, Jake told everyone. It says there is hope for humanity because we can choose compassion over fear. Colonel Hayes spoke into her radio. This is Colonel Hayes. I need to contact Washington immediately. We have a situation that requires the highest level of government attention. Jake looked at the communication device that the dragons had brought. It was beautiful and seemed to pulse with life. He wondered what would happen when humans used it to speak with creatures from other worlds. What happens next? Jake asked Korathex. The dragon's response filled Jake with both excitement and nervousness. Now your species must prove itself worthy of joining the community of star-traveling peoples. The choice that you made to help me has given humanity this chance. The rest is up to all of you. Jake realized that his quiet life as a farmer was over. He had become the bridge between humanity and the stars. Everything that happened next would depend on whether humans could show the same compassion he had shown to an injured dragon in his cornfield. Within 6 hours of the dragon's arrival, Jake's farm was swarming with important people. Government officials flew in from Washington. Scientists came from universities all over the world. Military leaders arrived with more equipment and more soldiers. Jake felt overwhelmed by all the attention. The most important person to arrive was President Martinez. She came in a helicopter with her advisors and security team. Jake had never met a president before, and he felt nervous as she approached him. Mr. Morrison, President Martinez said, shaking Jake's hand, I understand you are the only person who can communicate with these beings. Is that correct? Jake nodded. Yes, ma'am. The dragon called Korathex can put thoughts into my mind, and I can think questions back to it. I am not sure why it works with me and not with others. That makes you the most important person on Earth right now, the president said. I need you to help us understand what these creatures want and what this means for humanity. Jake looked over at Korathex, who was waiting patiently in the field. The other two dragons had moved back to give the human space, but they were still watching everything carefully. The dragon wants to help us, Jake said. It says humanity is about to reach a point where we cannot be hidden from the galactic community anymore. They want to give us a chance to prove we deserve to be part of their group. Dr. Helen Martinez, the scientist who had been studying the dragon's symbols, came forward. Mr. Morrison, can you ask the dragon to explain more about this galactic community? How many species are involved? How do they govern themselves? Jake concentrated on the question and directed his thoughts toward Korathex. The dragon responded by filling Jake's mind with images and concepts that were difficult to understand. The dragon is showing me many different kinds of creatures, Jake told the group. Some look like large insects, others are made of crystal, and some are energy beings without solid bodies. They come from hundreds of different worlds. The president looked fascinated. How do they all work together if they are so different? Jake listened to Korathex's explanation. The dragon says they have learned to focus on what unites them rather than what divides them. They share knowledge and resources. They help each other solve problems. But they also have rules about which species can join their community. What kind of rules? Asked General Peterson, the military leader who had arrived with the president. Jake felt Korathex's thoughts becoming more serious. The dragon says that species must prove they can control their aggressive impulses. They must show they will not use advanced technology to harm others. Many species fail these tests. The president looked concerned. What happens to species that fail? The dragon says they are contained on their home worlds. They are not allowed to travel to other planets. Their technology is limited to prevent them from becoming a threat to the galactic community. Everyone looked worried. The idea of being trapped on Earth forever was frightening. What do we have to do to pass these tests? The president asked. Jake directed the question to Korathex. The dragon's response was complex and took several minutes to translate. The dragon says we have to demonstrate several things. First, we must show that we can work together as a unified species. Second, we must prove that we will not use our technology to destroy other worlds or species. Third, we must show that we can learn and change our behavior. Dr. Martinez was taking notes frantically. How long do we have to prove these things? The dragon says that human technology is advancing very quickly. Within the next 10 years, humans will develop the ability to travel to other star systems. At that point, the galactic community will have to make a decision about humanity. General Peterson stepped forward. What if we refuse to be judged? What if we decide to develop our technology and explore space without their permission? Jake felt Korathex's sadness through their mental connection. The dragon says that would be a mistake. The galactic community has technology that is thousands of years ahead of ours. If they decide we are a threat, they can prevent us from leaving Earth or even destroy our civilization. The president looked grave. So we have no choice but to cooperate? The dragon says we have choices, but they have consequences. We can choose to work with the galactic community and eventually join them as equals. Or we can choose to be aggressive and face the consequences. The president walked away to talk with her advisors. Jake could see them having an intense discussion. After a few minutes, she returned. Mr. Morrison, please tell the dragon that humanity accepts this opportunity. We want to prove that we deserve to join the galactic community. What is our first Step: Jake communicated the president's message to Korathex. The dragon's response was immediate and positive. The dragon is pleased with our decision. It says the first step is to establish formal communication with the galactic community leaders. That is why they brought the crystal device. Everyone looked at the glowing crystal that the other dragons had brought. It was about the size of a basketball and pulsed with soft light. "How does it work?" asked Dr. Martinez. Jake listened to Korathex's explanation. "A dragon says the device will create a connection between Earth and the galactic community's main communication center. Our leaders will be able to speak directly with representatives from many different species." The president looked excited and nervous. "When can we use it?" "The dragon says we can start immediately, but it recommends that we prepare carefully. The galactic community will judge us based on how we present ourselves and what we say." Over the next several hours, the president and her advisors worked with scientists and diplomats to prepare for humanity's first formal contact with alien civilizations. They discussed what to say and how to say it. They practiced using the crystal device and learned how it worked. Jake stayed close to Korathex throughout the preparation. The dragon answered questions and provided guidance about galactic customs and protocols. Jake was amazed by how patient and helpful Korathex was. "Why are you helping us so much?" Jake asked the dragon during a quiet moment. Korathex's response filled Jake with warmth. "Because you helped me when I was hurt and afraid. You showed me that humans have the capacity for kindness and compassion. I want to give your species the same chance that you gave me." When everything was ready, the president stood in front of the crystal device. Jake was beside her to translate, and Korathex was nearby to provide guidance. Scientists and officials from around the world were present to witness this historic moment. "Mr. Morrison," the president said, "please ask Korathex to activate the device." Jake communicated the request. Korathex made a series of complex sounds, and the crystal device began to glow brighter. Suddenly, the air above the crystal shimmered, and holographic images appeared. Jake was amazed by what he saw. The images showed beings unlike anything he had ever imagined. There were creatures that looked like living trees, others that resembled giant butterflies, and some that were made of what looked like liquid light. A voice spoke from the device, but it was not in any human language. Korathex translated for Jake, who then translated for the president. The speaker says they are the Council of the Galactic Assembly. They have been waiting to meet with humanity's representatives. The president stepped forward. "I am President Martinez of the United States of America. I speak for the human species. We are honored to meet with the Galactic Assembly and grateful for this opportunity." Jake translated the president's words, and Korathex communicated them to the assembly. The response came back quickly. "The council says they have been observing humanity for many years. They are impressed by our creativity and determination, but they are concerned about our history of violence and environmental destruction." The president nodded. "We acknowledge that humanity has made mistakes. We have fought wars and damaged our planet, but we have also shown the ability to learn and change. We are working to solve these problems." The conversation continued for several hours. The Galactic Assembly asked questions about human society, technology, and intentions. The president and her advisors answered as honestly as they could. Finally, the council made an announcement that would change everything. "The council says that humanity will be given a trial period of 5 years," Jake translated. "During this time, we must demonstrate that we can work together peacefully and use our technology responsibly. If we succeed, we will be welcomed into the galactic community as full members." The president looked relieved and excited. "What do we need to do during this trial period?" "The council says we must establish a unified world government that can speak for all of humanity. We must end all military conflicts on Earth. We must stop damaging our environment. And we must show that we can cooperate with other species. Jake felt the weight of responsibility. Humanity had been given a chance, but it would not be easy to meet the Council's requirements. The Council also says that Korathex will remain on Earth as our first alien ambassador, Jake continued. The dragon will help us prepare for membership in the galactic community. As the communication session ended, Jake looked around at all. The people who had witnessed this historic moment. Everyone looked stunned by what they had just experienced. Mr. Morrison, the president said, you have just helped humanity take its first step toward joining a galactic civilization. How do you feel? Jake thought about his quiet life as a farmer and how much everything had changed. I feel hopeful, ma'am. If we can show the same kindness to other species that we showed to Korathex, I think we will do well. The president smiled. I hope you are right. The future of humanity may depend on it. 5 years had passed since that day when Jake Morrison first helped an injured dragon in his cornfield. The world had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. Jake now stood in the United Nations building in New York City, watching as humanity prepared for the most important moment in its history. The past 5 years had been difficult, but amazing. Countries around the world had worked together like never before. Wars had ended as nations realized they needed to cooperate to pass the Galactic Assembly's test. Environmental programs had been started to heal the damage humans had done to Earth. New technologies, shared by friendly alien species, had helped solve problems with energy and food production. Jake had become one of the most important people on Earth, even though he never wanted fame or attention. As the only human who could communicate directly with Korathex, Jake had served as Earth's main translator and advisor during the trial period. He had traveled to every continent, helping world leaders understand what the galactic community expected. From humanity, Korathex had kept his promise to stay on Earth as humanity's first alien ambassador. The dragon had lived on Jake's farm, which had been transformed into Earth's official alien contact center. Thousands of people came to visit every year, and Jake had learned to deal with the constant attention. Now, as Jake looked around the United Nations Assembly Hall, he could see representatives from every nation on Earth. They had all come to witness humanity's final evaluation by the Galactic Assembly. The crystal communication device sat on a table in front of the assembly, glowing softly and ready to connect Earth with the galactic community. Secretary General Chun walked to the podium. She had been elected as Earth's first unified world leader, chosen specifically to represent humanity during this crucial moment. Today, Secretary General Chun announced, the Galactic Assembly will decide whether humanity has proven itself worthy of membership in the galactic community. We have worked together for 5 years to show that our species can change and grow. Now we will learn whether our efforts have been enough. Jake sat in the front row next to Korathex. The dragon had become not just his partner in communication, but also his closest friend. Through their mental connection, Jake could feel that Korathex was nervous about the outcome. Are you worried? Jake asked the dragon silently. I am concerned for your species, Korathex replied through their telepathic link. You have made remarkable progress, but some members of the Assembly still have doubts about humanity's long-term intentions. Jake felt his stomach tighten with worry. After 5 years of hard work, the possibility of failure was terrifying. Secretary General Chun activated the communication device. The familiar shimmer appeared in the air, and holographic images of the Assembly members materialized above the crystal. Jake could see the same strange and wonderful beings he had first encountered 5 years ago. The Speaker of the Assembly, a crystalline creature whose thoughts appeared as shifting geometric patterns, began the evaluation session. We have observed humanity's progress during the trial period. Jake translated as the speaker's thoughts reached him through Korathex. We have seen significant changes in human behavior and society. The speaker continued, and Jake translated. Each point for the assembled world leaders. First, we acknowledge that humanity has largely ended military conflicts between nations. The formation of the United Earth Government has shown that humans can work together despite their differences. Secretary General Chun smiled with relief. This had been one of the most difficult achievements of the past 5 years. Second, humanity has made substantial progress in healing environmental damage. The new technologies we provided have been used responsibly to reduce pollution and restore damaged ecosystems. Jake felt hopeful as he translated this positive assessment. Third, humanity has shown the ability to cooperate with alien species. The partnership between the human Jake Morrison and the dragon Karafex has demonstrated that humans can form meaningful relationships with non-human intelligences. Jake felt proud, but also nervous. There was clearly more to come. The speaker's tone became more serious. However, the assembly has also noted areas of concern. Some human groups have resisted the changes required for galactic membership. There have been incidents of violence against those who support cooperation with alien species. Some humans continue to develop weapons that could threaten other worlds. Jake's heart sank as he translated these criticisms. He knew they were true. Not everyone on Earth had supported the changes of the past 5 years. Most concerning, the speaker continued, some assembly members believe that humans are only cooperating now because they fear the consequences of refusal. They question whether humanity's peaceful behavior would continue if Earth were admitted to the galactic community. Secretary General Chun stepped forward. Speaker, may I respond to these concerns? Jake translated the request, and the speaker indicated that she could proceed. The assembly is correct that not all humans have embraced the changes of the past. 5 years, Secretary General Chun said. But every species has individuals who resist progress. What matters is that the majority of humanity has chosen cooperation over conflict. She paused, looking around the assembly hall at the representatives of Earth's nations. We acknowledge that fear initially motivated our cooperation. But over the past 5 years, we have learned that working together brings better results than fighting. We have seen that helping other species benefits everyone. Fear may have started our journey, but understanding and friendship now guide our path. Jake translated her words and felt Korifex's approval through their mental link. The speaker consulted with other assembly members for several minutes. Jake could see different alien beings discussing among themselves in ways he could not understand. Finally, the speaker addressed the assembly again. The assembly has debated extensively about humanity's application for membership. The decision was not unanimous, but a majority has been reached. Jake held his breath as he waited for the speaker to continue. Humanity has demonstrated sufficient progress during the trial period to warrant conditional membership in the galactic community. The assembly hall erupted in cheers and applause. Jake felt relief wash over him, but he noticed the speaker had said conditional membership. The speaker waited for quiet before continuing. Humanity will be granted provisional membership for a period of 25 Earth years. During this time, you will have access to some galactic technologies and knowledge. You will be able to establish colonies on uninhabited worlds within your local star region. This was better than Jake had hoped for. Humanity would be allowed to spread to other planets. However, the speaker continued, humanity's full membership will depend on your actions during this provisional period. You must maintain peaceful relations with all species. You must continue to heal your home world. You must prove that your cooperative behavior is permanent, not temporary. Secretary General Chun nodded. We understand and accept these conditions. Humanity is grateful for this opportunity to prove itself worthy of full membership in the galactic community. The speaker's final announcement filled Jake with emotion. The assembly wishes to acknowledge the role that 2 individuals played. In this outcome, the human Jake Morrison and the dragon Carathix have shown that different species can work together with mutual respect and friendship. Their partnership has been a model for what humanity might achieve among the stars. Jake felt tears in his eyes as he translated these words. He looked at Carathix and felt the dragon's happiness through their mental connection. The Assembly also announces that Jake Morrison has been selected to serve as humanity's first representative to the Galactic Council. He will work with representatives from other species to help guide the galactic community. Jake was shocked. He had never expected to be chosen for such an important position. After the communication session ended, Jake found himself surrounded by world leaders who wanted to congratulate him. But he felt overwhelmed by the responsibility that had been placed on his shoulders. Later that evening, Jake and Carathix stood on the roof of the United Nations building, looking up at the stars. The city lights made it difficult to see many stars, but Jake knew that humans would soon be traveling to some of those distant suns. "Are you ready for your new role as humanity's representative?" Carathix asked through their mental link. Jake thought about his quiet life as a farmer, which now seemed like it had happened to someone else. "I never wanted to be important or famous. I just wanted to help when I saw something that was hurt." "That is exactly why you were chosen," Carathix replied. "The Assembly needs representatives who care more about helping others than about gaining power for themselves." Jake looked at his dragon friend. "Will you come with me when I go to work with the Galactic Council?" "If you want me to," Carathix said. "We make a good team." Jake smiled. "We do. And I think we can help humanity find its place among the stars." As they stood together looking at the night sky, Jake thought about how much had changed since that morning when he found an injured dragon in his cornfield. His simple act of kindness had led to humanity's acceptance into a galactic civilization. Jake realized that the most important lesson from the past 5 years was not about advanced technology or alien species. It was about the power of choosing. To help rather than harm, to cooperate rather than fight, to build bridges rather than walls. "Carathix," Jake said, "do you think humanity will succeed during the provisional period?" The dragon was quiet for a moment before responding. "I believe your species has the potential for greatness. You have shown that you can change and grow. Whether you succeed will depend on the choices that individual humans make every day." Jake nodded. "Then I guess we better make sure they choose wisely." As they prepared to leave the rooftop, Jake took one more look at the stars. Soon, humans would be living on worlds orbiting those distant suns. Children born on Earth would grow up to walk on alien planets and work alongside beings from other worlds. It had all started with a farmer who chose to help an injured dragon. Jake hoped that humanity would remember that lesson as it took its first steps among the stars. The future would depend on whether humans could continue to choose compassion over fear, cooperation over conflict, and kindness over indifference. The galaxy was waiting to see what humanity would become. Jake was determined to help his species prove that it deserved a place among the stars.